You have the clubhouse room to come into. Damian, just pinged you. Yeah, so I started the room that is the scheduled room. Here we go. It's coming in. So hi guys, welcome to this clubhouse room. I'm gonna take 1 or 2 minutes to ping some people we know in Clubhouse into this room. We have some really special guests on stage. Joining me is Jazz, Hampton, and Damian Wilson. We'll get some introductions going on with cause-driven marketing, which is how to marry marketing messages behind social justice causes. Grow your meaningful things in life. So, marketing, or if you care about social justice issues, Jazz Hampton, I'm going to introduce him momentarily, is the CEO of a very hot trending app, TurnSignl, that is doing just that. It's kind of marrying social justice issues kind of behind some of the national headlines in Black Lives Matter, George Floyd murder, and some other things. And really, really excited to get to talk to him here. So we're going to start in about a minute. I'm just going to By the way, if you know of anybody on Clubhouse that you think would get value from these topics, if you could grab, be so kind to ping them in as well, that would be awesome. And I feel like a lot of these times with some of the smaller rooms, we get kind of the most value out of people just on stage. So I'm gonna, if anyone wants to raise their hand and just come have an intimate conversation and come on stage, please don't be shy. That's what we love about Clubhouse. So we got a few people, guys. So Claire, I'm gonna get you up here if you'd like. Jeremy, if you want to come up here. And Sarah, if you bring you up as well. Mohammed, how's it going? Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get this room started. I think we're going to gain a little traction as we have about 45 minutes here. So the message is cause-driven marketing, messages that help grow your business and have real meaning behind social justice issues. And I've had the privilege of knowing Damian Wilson for a while, and he introduced me recently to the CEO of TurnSignl. It's an app that is a Minnesota-based tech company that really connects certain attorneys with their clients in their most important time of need, which is during a traffic stop and right after an auto accident. And the Minnesota-based tech company provides real-time legal guidance from attorneys to drivers, all while their cameras recording these interactions, which, if we think about what's going on in the news, is more important than ever. Jazz bios is pretty amazing. He's an adjunct professor at teaching several topics at the Inline School of Law. He's been the director of diversity and inclusion at a very well-known national law firm, has been very involved with community projects, and I just learned that he's been on, I think, every major news network. I'm just looking at my email. I'm going to screw some of these up. PBS, NBC. I mean, Jazz, what else have you been on? MSNBC, Fox News, I think, right? Interviewing.
Just short of Fox, but all those other ones, yeah. It's been a kind of a PR world tour recently, but it's exciting, and you know, we're just excited to spread the word about what we're doing here and inform people about some of the changes that we're kind of on the forefront of doing as a group. So excited to be there.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us just what exactly is TurnSignl? Why does it exist?
Yeah, so TurnSignl was co-founded by myself and two other Black men here in the Twin Cities. I am, as you kind of just touched on, I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for over, I think, around 6 years, and I was the director of diversity inclusion, adjunct professor of law. But my law practice was more focused on defending large companies when they get sued, right? Fortune 5 companies all the way down to startups. And I, after Philando Castile was killed by law enforcement here in the Twin Cities, my two co-founders knew the Castile family personally, and so it's kind of like, what are we going to do to foster change in this space, right? And then George Floyd happens, 4 years later. It's like a Band-Aid ripping off of a wound that, is not even close to being healed. And my two co-founders, Andre Creighton, he's an accounting major from here in the Twin Cities with a master's focused in finance. And Mike Freelix is my other co-founder. He is a marketing undergrad degree with also an MBA. And as three Black men from this community, we thought, why aren't we being a part of the solution? Why aren't we actively working to help bridge the gap here? We have kind of the unique skill sets to do it, so let's do it. So we all left our jobs. I left the law firm. They left Sony Electronics and Spire Credit Union, respectively, and we started this company. It's an app that's on your phone, and all you do is simply press one button when you're pulled over or when you're in an accident, and instantly it starts recording with that front-facing camera and connects you to attorney on a video conference, just like a FaceTime call, instantaneously with an attorney 24/7, 365. We're always available. We're always here. We started here in Minnesota, and we're growing across the country as time goes. But the last thing I'll say, as an attorney, I talk too much, so I'm reminded of that all the time by my co-founders, right? We started this in the shadow of the murder of George Floyd and Philando Castile. But what we've seen and learned is there's so many more users than just people of color who are worried about frequent interaction with law enforcement, right? We're really excited to have a lot of businesses saying, hey, we're going to stand behind our DEI statements and provide this to our employees. We have my wife, who was a white woman from the suburbs of Minnesota, saying, I don't feel comfortable when I'm pulled over or when I'm stopped on the side of the road and there's not a building for 3 miles in either direction, right? We've learned that there's so many more users for this platform, and so we're excited to help bring a solution to them. And as we always say, an app to bridge the gap.
So I'm just imagining the group of people you mentioned. You all sound like you're highly educated, experienced in your respective fields. You're compelled so much around these events to create change that you all left your jobs and started this. Was this idea something that had been percolating prior? Did you guys have this and were like, okay, this is the final straw? I mean, how did that transition happen?
Yeah, so I named us three. We're the three executives running the organization right now, and there's a fourth individual who's like a serial entrepreneur, and he actually went to the MBA program that both Michael and Andre were in, to the leader of the dean of that program, and said, I'm looking for some people of color that are passionate about this topic that would help me build a company. And he's like, I'm an entrepreneur. I know that world, but I don't know how to build a solution. So why don't we all come together and do that? So our text thread is called the Telelegal Avengers. It's because we were all have different skill sets, and we're all coming together, bringing those skill sets to the table to help solve a problem. So really, after George Floyd, it was like, I've done the marches. I was on that bridge on 35W, and that semi rolled through with my wife. I've gone to the visuals, I've gone to the memorials. But what have I done to be a part of the solution? And as a lawyer and two MBAs, we have the skills to do it. So there's no reason not to, other than, the uncertainty of leaving a secure job, I guess.
Well, yeah, on one hand, it's interesting because we're on Clubhouse. We're also streaming on some other platform, have 7 to 10 people watching and listening in. But I know with Clubhouse, at least, a lot of entrepreneurs, smart people that are trying to understand, what other people are doing, and reciprocity is really big. I feel like you do take a leap of faith to start this, but the topic tonight, which talks about kind of what emotionally drives us to act, not as only as entrepreneurs, but also as people that you serve, the communities you serve, the lawyers and law firms that can help serve those communities. there's a lot of messages that can kind of revolve around these things. And I'm wondering, is it a challenge to try and, do you feel like you have to tread lightly around social issues to that you're, I don't know, in the best light for everyone? Or is that helped you and been a catalyst to your growth? And how are you taking that message and combining it with a business plan that seems to be in most traditional senses black and white?
Yeah, you know, when any social issue, I don't think there's many social issues that can be as hot button as in interaction with law enforcement right now, right? It's a pretty hot button issue, but it's also a really cause driven issue. And so when we sat down and we started building TurnSignl, a lot of our conversations were, how are we going to build something that is forward thinking, and looking forward to building a solution rather than stewing on the issues of the past, because there's plenty of issues of the past. But the thing is, as I said, we've been to the marches, we've done all of those things. But if I can build a solution, now we can start looking forward. And the other part is, and really important, what TurnSignl is doing as a company is we're working with law enforcement. Like, I've met with 15 plus police officers, including police chiefs down to boots on the ground patrol officers. I said, hey, here's what TurnSignl is, and here's what we're going to do. Tell me what your thoughts are around this. Tell me how you feel about an attorney being on the phone when you approach the car. Tell me what would be friction points for you. And so when it comes to marketing, I can say that now. And I can say that Chief Blair Anderson in St. Cloud loves what we're doing and wants us to be successful in what we're doing, right? And that's why we always say we're an app to bridge the gap. If we're able to do that, if we're able to facilitate a conversation on a hot button issue, who can be upset about it? I mean, if there's a police chief that wants to stand behind us, it'd be pretty tough to stand against us, is my thought.
Yeah, an app to bridge the gap. Yeah, you're solving problems, and I think it's everyone's problem. Not just a few of our problems. It impacts us differently, but I think that's really cool. I do want to also quickly introduce Damian, who's up here. And I'm going to make you guys moderators in this room as well, which I meant to do earlier. But Damian, you've been on board with TurnSignl for not too long, but tell us, as the director of sales, what your role is and your task to take what you're trying to do with this app to bridge the gap and bring it more awareness to other groups like law enforcement, like attorneys, like those in the community that download the app. What are you doing with that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and in full transparency, you mentioned it. I have been on board since July 1st, so it is a relatively new quest that I'm undertaking. But I've been in contact with Jazz here for a fair bit before that, and talked to him about the different issues and just nuances that I saw in the space that I came from, and how those worlds seem to overlap significantly with what it is TurnSignl is trying to accomplish. And so for me, coming in from a past employer that was deeply rooted in the legal industry, very well connected at the law firm level, there was certainly a sense of understanding just from my professional background that I brought to the table of how to speak to the attorney side of this equation, right? How do we get the attorneys excited to be on our platform, to better serve their communities, to better engage with customers, irrespective of whether they're immediately signing a case, but getting them to see the bigger value that there's a societal good here, that there is also significant monetary compensation if all of these players that come to the table seeking a solution that Jazz is talking about bridging the gap on, if we can do that, if we can accomplish that mission and vision, and each one of us do our part in that, everyone comes out ahead. No matter how you look at the pennies, the dollars, the other elements beyond the monetary side of things. I'm looking at it from a business lens coming in as the sales director, certainly, but there is so much more to this mission-driven company than just that element. And so being able to help people see past yes, is the monetary important? 100%. But is the other facets of the business that much more important, and helping us to ultimately accomplish what it is we're setting out to do, which is bridge that gap?
Yeah, very cool. So I want to do a quick reset of this room because there's some people on Clubhouse that are here too. And if Jeremy, Catherine, Catherine, how's it going, by the way? It's good to see you. I think you're talking, but I can't hear you. Or maybe you're muted.
I could hear her, so.
That's good. I'm going to have to change my settings, but good to see you, Catherine. There we go. And then Jeremy and Seraphima. If you guys have any questions or Damian, please let us know. Just kind of chime in. So to quickly reset, we've got Jazz Hampton. He's the CEO of TurnSignl, which is a Minnesota-based tech company, and it's an app that connects attorneys to drivers while the drivers' cameras are rolling for traffic stops and accidents. And it's a mission-based company. It's a cause-driven company based on social injustice, period. And I think that's really interesting, especially with the attorneys that I've served. I've had the privilege of working with hundreds of solo and small law firms, and a lot of, not to stereotype plaintiffs firms or criminal defense firms, but a lot of our clients are passionate about the same things you guys are passionate about, and I know they care about social justice issues and want to sort of integrate their marketing with those topics. How do you do that? How do you grow your company successfully while pushing those messages and giving life to those messages? Because in part, as Jazz mentioned, if you're compelled to make a difference, give yourself that responsibility to put your thoughts and words into real action. So, if anyone's looking for something specific on how to do that, I would say these are the two guys that could share that, because they're in the middle of a really amazing journey around growth, around trending into technology that we all know the legal community, frankly, is really far behind in many aspects, to make the community a safer and better place on both the law enforcement side, who we all care a lot about, and the community side, who we care equally about, right? So I think it's a fascinating topic. So is there anyone in the room that would like to ask any questions? I'll just open it up real quick. So if there, Jeremy, unmuted.
Yep.
I started a year and a half, 2 years ago. There was very little to nothing. So to find other folks who were attacking was very specific and niche and trying to throw a solution in a sense, I should say. Also,
Sorry about that. And thank you for the comments, and thank you for working in the space. That's and not to belabor the point, but I've always felt like, law school for me was like, I now have, in this metaphor, a tire iron, right? And I'm driving by someone with a flat tire and all they have is a wrench. And I'm like, well, wow, how am I not going to stop and use this tire iron to help them out with this problem, right? And there's so many of us that have those tools, and like, we haven't seen the opportunity to use them yet. But the opportunity was in front of us in full color, obviously, over the last year and a half and longer. So honestly, I would have felt wrong not doing it. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm thankful that I have, my two co-founders, and I call him Dame, and Dame here as he is on this call, helping us out and helping us grow, because we can start here in Minnesota, but Dame's really ensuring that we're growing beyond just Minnesota and working with attorneys, across the country.
Thanks, Jeremy. Dave, anything to add? And Ari, good to see you. I know you're a fellow attorney, so this is a pretty interesting conversation. Hang out.
The only other part of the conversation, as we're waiting for somebody else to jump in, that I don't think we've quite touched on just yet, in terms of our mission and vision, one of the big things that we set out to do is make sure that finances weren't a barrier of entry to our platform. It was really important for us to be able to incorporate that into the structure of the business, not just in a marketing message, not just in a soundbite that we can kind of rubber stamp and say, hey, this is a tool for everybody. We built it into the fabric, and I say we because I now am part of TurnSignl as
Love
of
it.
July 1st, but it actually was not my work whatsoever. It was the hard blood, sweat, and tears of the co-founding team. But they intentionally set out to build it into the core fabric of the business, that if you cannot afford the service, that it is provided to you for free. We've kind of set up a foundation to help support that part of the business and drive that forward, so that there is both a for-profit company as well as a non-for-profit company that blends the two spaces together in the most meaningful way possible, in my opinion, to help at scale and at speed of a private company, but then have the necessary safety nets for those other folks who would otherwise love to use the app but could not otherwise financially afford it. So kudos to the founders here, just figuring that element out. That structure of a business supports the marketing message, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm wondering if we can maybe pivot a little and give some practical tips and advice on how we can approach business owners, because we're going to replay this later on since this is being recorded, but how a business owner can approach taking a cause they care about. It can be similar to this or not. And how do you build marketing messages that fit within that cause? I'm wondering, Jazz, as you guys had this sort of this desire and burning passion that really motivated you guys to take these massive leaps of faith and say, the hell with this corporate America stuff for now. It served me well, taught me a lot, but I mean, there's so much more meaning behind the work you do, certainly. How do you sit down and create a plan and articulate what's in your heart and make it something to a business? Because I think a lot of people feel that way, especially with COVID, being stuck at home and thinking about their life. Like, why am I here? What am I really doing that's important? Would you say to people that feel that?
Yeah, so I always work, and this I think is a little bit of an attorney aspect in me. I always work backwards from where I want to end up, right? So I want to have a solution that'll bridge the gap. What am I going to do? I think of my instance, right? I've been pulled over 12 times in my life, and I've never received a ticket, right? A portion of those are because I was equipped with legal knowledge that other people aren't. So how can I give that to them? Okay, I can give it to them if I'm on a video conference with them or if I'm talking to them. I can also record it so they can have that evidence later, right? So now I'm walking back from the end goal that I want to have. And I do the same thing in the marketing. I think whenever you're talking about marketing, whether you're marketing to a business or individuals, again, in our example, I didn't have to start talking to businesses that we want to provide TurnSignl to their employees. I didn't have to start by looking up the Fortune 500. I just scroll through my Instagram feed. Oh, you're dedicated to this. You're dedicated to ensuring Black Lives Matter. You're dedicated to DEI strategy. Okay, you're the first call then, right? You told me that you needed this. And so now when I approach them, I'm not approaching from a sense of, here's a great product, you need it, buy it. It's, you had a problem, few to no people have a solution, and I'm offering one, right? And that's all good and well when it's some technology solution to help automate a process within your organization. But when it's something that makes you feel good doing it as well, like that is even easier. That marketing step is so easy, right? So you need it and it makes you feel good doing it, and you told people you want to do it. Here's the opportunity, right? I think that was the structure that just made sense in my mind, and has been successful for us thus far.
I mean, it makes sense, with social media and all the groups that exist and the micro influencers, the macro. I mean, you just have to kind of do some homework,
right?
In a sense. So that's where you guys started, and you're just picking up the phone, essentially finding out who's kind of behind these things and just saying, hey, here's who I am, here's what we're doing? Is that something you want to be involved with? Is that what you're
Yeah, absolutely. But actually, the inverse is true. As you said, we've been on MSNBC, we've been on WCCO, Care 11, etc. Now businesses are seeing that and calling us, right? Because they've been looking for a solution, and I don't even have to present it. They want to reach out to us to do it, right? So it can be some passive marketing that you're doing as well. If you just have a solution to a hot button issue, to a cause-driven issue that you're trying to, to put out into the atmosphere, then just let people know, get it out there, and then they'll come to you as well. So you can make the calls, but the calls can also come to you if you're providing a real solution to a palpable problem.
That's another thing that I think that the founders did uniquely here is that they listened to differing opinions on topics. It's a lost art form in this world, and there's an element of this where if you understand where two parties, any issue, regardless of what it is, right? If there's two opposing forces and you understand where each is coming from foundationally and where there is overlap and where there isn't, they can be as opposing forces as possible, but there can be a way that you can bridge some sort of gap. And in this case, for our company, safety between public and police is the common ground. It's the fabric that joins both parties together. And that is a message that we can then market around and communicate the value of our platform to everyone involved. Jazz talked about talking to many different police forces in order to have a solution that met their need, right? And the public's. And so that's again, going back to how do we market the product? Sometimes it's going one step further and saying, hey, did we actually create the product meaningfully to address the issues of not just our core customer group, but potentially an adjacent one that could opt into the program if we figured out what they value.
Yeah, and Dame, to even connect that to Will's earlier question, how do we build a business around it? That was our mission. So our mission statement is to provide a technology-based solution to protect drivers' civil rights, de-escalate roadside interactions, and ensure that drivers and police officers get home safely every day. That last portion, very easily could have been left out, but we didn't want it to be. We're bridging a gap. And so now when I tell that to law enforcement, they're saying, oh, okay, they also care about us. So when they approach a car and there is something that is sufficient probable cause to search a car, the attorney on the phone will, by professional responsibility rules, say, yeah, you have to let them search your car. Now, if the attorney wasn't there, maybe that person would have thrown up their arms and been upset about that and claimed constitutional rights that they don't have. Now, here's me helping you in that situation too, officer, right? So a lot of conversations with people with differing opinions than I do. And the way we've kept that communication open is I've said, if you ever see anything from TurnSignl that you disagree with or would upset you, call, here's my cell phone number. I've told those stakeholders, those voices, to keep that door open always.
Yeah, that's powerful. Because I think, a lot of the conversations I'm having on Clubhouse and some of these forums, revolve around this sort of shiniest, newest, trending social app, or if I'm an attorney, maybe a little bit different than what you guys are doing, because I know a lot of my audience, are solo and small firms, and they have these things they care about. Where they're always wondering, where do they spend their time? Where do they go? They have these messages like you described, Jazz, with your mission statement, I guess, or what you guys do and represent. But how do you articulate that? Am I supposed to go live somewhere? Am I supposed to do a bunch of Instagram reels? Do I need to be on, running through LinkedIn and all of that? Because you guys have the luxury now, you've earned it, certainly, to have exposure on national syndicated news outlets, local as well, doing some small stuff like this. I mean, you're out there, but it sounded kind of like a bell curve where you had to start in a different position. So, I think it's hard to know where to spend your time and energy, sharing your beliefs and causes. Do you guys have any advice for people on that?
I can tackle it first. I think the first thing, when we say cause driven, there's always community-based organizations that are at the heart of those causes, right? And if you don't go to them and let them know what you're doing, you won't have the groundswell to keep building later. That's like the foundation you have to start with. So if you don't get to know the people who are doing boots on the ground work in that space already, for us, if I didn't reach out to the Minneapolis NAACP, if I didn't reach out to leaders of social justice causes in the Twin Cities, it would be a weird foundation. Then when they see me on TV and someone goes up to those leaders and say, "Hey, what do you think about TurnSignl?" and they don't know who we are, that won't help you build and grow. So I think getting to know the people on the ground in your cause, the cause-driven area that you're trying to enter, is really important. And then beyond that, you just have to show up to the events, and that's a lot, right? It's a lot of my Saturdays, and I have 2 children, and I just had my 3rd child born here 2 weeks ago yesterday. It's a lot to show up to those events. My wife is a saint for all she does. And so, but that's part of what you have to do. You have to be present. You can have passive Instagram ads, and I'm not saying don't do that. We do that, right? Your Instagram ads, all of that stuff. But you have to show your face so then when people hear your name, they can connect the dots mentally. I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's a great point. They have to know you exist, but when they engage with anything you're doing, what's the like?
Right.
Why am I pulled into your ecosystem, and why is what you're saying, validated and important? Tell me about what's the next 12 months look like for TurnSignl. What do you guys need to have happen to continue furthering your cause and living the mission you just described and keeping your communities and lawful enforcement framework?
I'll let you take that one, Dame. That's like that's right up your alley right now, right?
I was about to say, now that he hired a sales guy, he can just kick up his boots and hang back at the office.
Yeah.
No. In all sincerity, it is going to be a mountain that we're going to climb together, and we're excited about doing it. We're expanding. We're currently, we've mentioned a couple times, Minneapolis based, and expanding rapidly from there to different spots across the country. We are actively looking for founding attorney partnerships across the country. And so if there is someone who in your network is interested in learning more about TurnSignl, please feel free to follow me, DM me on Instagram. Happy to share more information about TurnSignl and the mission that we're undertaking. But we plan to be in several additional states here relatively quickly, hoping to be in 10 states by the end of the year. And you heard it here first, hopefully nationwide. Jazz is going to kill me here. Nationwide in 2022. We'll see.
If that happens, I definitely will not kill you, Dame. I will not.
You got to speak it into existence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I will say, and you've mentioned, Will, that a lot of your audience is attorneys, PI and crim. And so what we are doing and what they are looking to do, especially if they're listening to this, this conversation, is they're like, how can I improve my marketing as a PI or crim attorney? And like things like TurnSignl, I'm not saying we're the end all be all to the greatest marketing step for law firms, but it's really tough to advertise as a PI law firm. Like your advertisements are not, it doesn't make you feel warm and good. It's often invoking like scary thoughts or bad situations. But what you can do with TurnSignl is just join up with us or someone who's doing work like us to say, oh, we care about, getting people home safe. We care about this DEI initiative. We care about this mission-driven organization, and we're working with them. So if an attorney from a PI or crim law firm has, TurnSignl vetted attorney in their signature block, it brings credibility and, oh, so I heard they don't have that many attorneys. You're one of them. Tell me more about that. It's a good marketing opportunity. So whether it's that or it's your local bar associations or whatever you can hitch onto to show that you care about these causes, I think it's a really good opportunity to not be just another PI commercial on daytime TV.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like admitting that I look at dozens of PI websites a day and all of that. It's all the same thing. And I think people are just really wanting something different and more, experienced and verdicts and settlements and all that. It's like, doesn't put you in a different light whatsoever. Right? I really love this opportunity for the criminal defense and injury lawyers to, stand behind what they and their team really knows what they believe, but it's really hard to make that translate in on a website or in marketing messages or on TV appearances organically, just kind of naturally, I think. But speaking to a cause where it's defined by you guys, that's something that they can sink their teeth in and prove that they do more than just what the public stereotypes are around chasing ambulances and Better Call Saul and all that stuff, which doesn't,
right.
It's fine, but it's not the reality. It's just our consumer perspective reality. So I would hope really and truly that if there are people in my network listening to this that are simply looking for a way to differentiate themselves among everybody else, among their competitors, this is a great chance to do it with a cause that is more relevant than it's been in decades, and hopefully continues to stay relevant for a long time until a lot of these problems get solved. And people like Jazz and Damian and the team behind these two guys, I just really respect what you guys are doing and the guts and that you have to make it happen. So really cool stuff.
Appreciate it.
Damian, welcome back.
I don't know what happened there. My screen went black. Had to plug it back in.
No worries. Anything from, I'm just looking at Clubhouse here. There's Jeremy and I know Catherine's here, Ari, Claire, Erez, a small group on here. Erez, I'm looking at your profile, maritime law, AI, some interesting people on Clubhouse right now. If anyone wants to ask Jazz or Damian a question, just raise your hand. We'll get you up here before we depart. We've got about 10 or so minutes left, kind of depending on how things go. So feel free to jump in if you guys want. So as we wrap up, guys, is there any place you can kind of direct people towards that can get them connected with what you're doing, whether it's just purely curiosity or light interest, or this is speaking to them? They're like, you know what, I've been waiting to hear something like this from somebody. Let's figure out what these guys are doing and how can I be involved. Where do they need to go?
I think the first person, especially if there's a lot of attorneys here, the first thing they can do is email Damian. So it's his email is just dwilson@turnsignl.com. I should mention TurnSignl is spelled without the A, so TURNSIGNL, as you can see on his shirt there. There it is. Yeah, no A. So feel free to reach out to him. And if you have any questions about me from the perspective of, one of the co-founders and kind of what it's been like growing this, I'd be happy to field those. But the last thing kind of on that, if you were interested in being on the platform, is it's really nice because when you're practicing law at your firm, it's just on your phone. Think of like being an Uber driver and but you didn't have to leave your office to drive someone in the Uber. So it's just on your phone. I know that everyone isn't online, but this is the interface and what it looks like. And then when you're not available, you just press one button and you're not available. So if your son's soccer game, your daughter's gymnastics, or you're having a glass of wine with your spouse, you can just say, I'm not available, and you don't have to, and no calls will come to your phone. And then you can be available to whatever extent you want to be. If you have 400 hours in the month or 600 hours or 6, just to be on the platform, to be available, is really great. And again, you can push out some of the great work you're doing to help, be a part of the bridging the gap.
So Jazz, I have to say this for the people in Clubhouse that couldn't really see your screen. This is what I thought of, and I think it's brilliant. I actually have the Uber and Lyft Drive apps on my phone because before we had our second kid, I had to get out after, I guess before COVID, but after a second, I had to get out of the house and for Uber and Lyft because I just thought it was fun to meet people. And it's like I'm either on or off of that thing. And if I'm on, I get pinged. Somebody needs my help. A drive. And if it's off, I'm like off the group. And I it's kind of what I thought about it. It's like if you're an attorney, it's like I'm on, ready to serve my community. If anybody needs assistance, whether it's during a traffic stop or after an accident, I mean, these things we're dealing with people.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, that's what I saw, I think, right? I mean,
yep.
What it is.
It's exactly what it is. And so, and that's the beauty of it. And the other part that's great about that is Again, let's say you help someone and they're like, yep, it was a fender bender. It took you 6 minutes to do it. And they have your name and your law firm name now. And now when they're talking to someone like, yeah, I used the TurnSignl app, it was crazy. And I met with Taylor Rahm. He was the most, amazing PI attorney. He's office right down here in downtown. Oh, can I get their information? It's just natural organic marketing that you wouldn't get otherwise from a pool of users that no one has access to except for you. Right. So it's just TurnSignl, I've always said, it's a win for the drivers. They feel better. It's a win for the law enforcement. They feel safer. It's a win for the attorneys. It's free marketing and PR for them. For businesses trying to help provide a better solution to their employees and help build their DEI strategies and their retention. Right. It's a win-win-win for everyone. So, we're just happy to be in that space, kind of offering up a solution to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. If you're a PI or criminal defense attorney, just put yourself in that position. You've got TurnSignl on your phone. You're on the grid. You're available to help, and a client needs you, and you're notified right there. There's nothing more organic than that, right?
And if you can't answer in that moment, that's fine. Another attorney will, right? So even if you thought you were available, but you were just taking your hot pocket out of the microwave, that's fine. Someone else will get it. I'm not worried about it. I don't know who eats.
They just throw a hot pocket in the microwave.
That sounded like a personal story. I'm sorry about that.
I had a meeting with a guy the other day. I won't tell his name. He's hilarious, but he was eating a chocolate bar and having a coffee. And he was in very great shape, very nice suit. And that was his. I'm like, is this a new diet? I don't understand.
Right.
So anyways,
that's it.
Listen, I did have Claire come up on stage and raise her hand. Claire, I wanted to make sure if you wanted to ask or jump in on this conversation or ask a question. How are you?
Well, thank you. So I follow all the things that are going on in my community. So I'm happy to be here and listen in, and I appreciate this conversation. I got associated with TurnSignl through LinkedIn because one of my contacts was linked in with, is it Andrew or Andre?
Andre, yep.
Andre. He used to work at an accounting firm that I worked at, but not at the same time. But anyway, so I knew of him, and everyone speaks very highly of him at the accounting firm where I worked. But my question is, in terms of marketing, so I hear you have to market to the attorneys. It sounds like one of my questions is you have to market to the community who are working for social justice, specifically here in Minneapolis. It sounded like you get them to sign up people in the community that they're working with. So is the part of the marketing around that? And then the third leg just trying to get users on board. So, not through the attorneys or the community justice organizations here, but also just people like me. Somehow, I hear about it, and then I tell all my friends to sign up. Is it like 3 different avenues that you have to market to?
Claire, I really appreciate that question, because now I can go to my wife and say, see, Claire gets it. I am marketing to 1 million people at the same time. Because that's exactly what it is. And I'll explain it. I'll try to explain it in a simple way. There's pillars. One pillar is attorneys, because I have to explain to attorneys that you should be on the platform. This is great. It's kind of like Uber has to market to potential drivers, right? I'm marketing to potential attorneys to be on the platform. That's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is individuals in the community. That is just Claire when she's walking down the street, when she hears an iHeartRadio ad that's going to be starting here in the Twin Cities pretty soon, trying to say, hey, listen, random driver in North Minneapolis, you need to download TurnSignl. You need to have it on your phone. That's like the B2C, the business to consumer marketing, which I think is what takes the most amount of time and money, of course. Then the third is the business to business, which is, going to local Twin Cities based businesses and saying, we'd love you to provide this to all of your employees. So those are the kind of the three pillars. And within the B2C one, when I'm talking to people, that's usually when I'm also going to community organizations and saying, hey, NAACP, Minneapolis NAACP, hey, who can you connect us with so we can hand out some of these memberships to people who can't afford it? Or who can you connect us with that we can table at some event that we can let them know about TurnSignl, right? And that B2C is the most like standard organic form of just marketing to people who need to buy into the product. And that takes a lot of work. We had an hour and a half meeting about it today. In fact, it's a never ending, it's always changing and augmenting, but those are kind of the three structures. I don't know if that clarified at all your question.
Clarified it for Claire.
Like that.
Yes, it did clarify it. So, because I imagine that you have to say to your attorney group that we have X, hundreds or thousands of users, right? For them to also want to kind of sign on. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if I had $1 for every time I said this, I would have invested all in the company. But it's a chicken or the egg situation, right? Attorneys always say, how many people are on the platform? And then the drivers say, are you sure you have enough attorneys to answer my call at 3 a.m? And I'm comfortable with both, right? But they just have to grow at a steady rate. And thankfully, as you could imagine, mathematically, my friend Ricky is like the math genius, and I actually went to him right away for this question. I said, with this many users and this percentage chance of accidents or pullovers, how many people am I growing before I have to call and get let another attorney who's waiting to be on the platform, or to call an attorney to add them, right? And luckily that it isn't a surprise. It won't be, oh, we have 350 new users this morning, we need to get 20 attorneys on the platform today. It's a steady growth, which is helpful for us. But yeah, that is a lot of our work is saying, hey, but to attorneys, the point I always make is, this is a social mission. And even if you only got one call in a month, guess what? You have a great marketing opportunity to say you're a part of the TurnSignl team, right? And that in itself is real value, especially to, as I said, PI attorneys who are in a difficult place for marketing.
Yes, I agree too. And my last comment is just, yes, thank you for this. It's very exciting. It to me, it almost seems like, wow, okay, now when I'm in my car, I have someone to help, right? Instead of hearing on the news that some brave soul turned on their, camera to record it all. This is just providing that really good opportunity in a very formalized way. So thank you.
We get that on recording so that can be my next commercial. Claire, I don't know if I have to pay her for that, but thank you. I appreciate that. Because that's what we're trying to convey to folks. And it goes beyond that accident. The other thing the story I like to tell is when I was 23 years old, I was in an accident. And the first thing I did, I was just scared. I was terrified. And I got out of the car and I called my dad. I was like, Dad, what am I supposed to be doing? Do I have to get their insurance information? If I don't call the police, am I fleeing the scene of an accident? What should I be doing? Now you have an attorney, not only on the phone, but a video conference with them. You can look them in the eyes. They're a personal injury attorney that knows what you should be doing and help you through that situation. That's one of our biggest user pools we've seen thus far is just parents. They're like, oh my gosh, my 16-year-old has to have this for if they get pulled over. But absolutely, if they're in an accident, they don't know what they're doing. And I'm probably at work. Jazz promised me an attorney would be there though, and they will, right? So it's again, we know there's a need. And so we're just here to kind of fill that gap. So thank you, Claire, I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And, I just try to do what I can in the community too, on a very small scale. The most I can do is provide my, accounting skills to, entrepreneurs to help them kind of reach the next level on a volunteer basis. So that's why I'm here. Like, I want to help too, but I like to hear, how you're doing it such a big way. So great.
Well, thank you. And I don't know if you were I know he was at 2 accounting places, but both of them have been incredibly nice to us. And actually, both of them are onboarding their employees. So whichever one you're at was a great place, and they're providing TurnSignl to their employees in due time here. So it's exciting.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you have opportunities just to talk to all of the players in the Twin Cities market, right? Who, like, I'm guessing you talk to like Target and just all the big companies because they want to help. I imagine. Is that true?
Yeah, I use too many analogies, I think, but I always say like they all are hungry for a solution, and I am just saying, well, I have a fresh pizza here, so let's work together and solve the problem, right? And so we're excited to partner with them. Yeah.
We appreciate that. A couple new people in the room. We have only I just got to say that the use case and the applications for a lot of what you just mentioned, Jess. I mean, even though my kids are only 5 years old, the day they start to drive, they're gotten a big accident. Luckily, other cars that were involved. I was like you, that always don't know what to do. Just the peace of mind around that piece. It's just amazing. I think you guys are at a perfect inflection point in the intersection where we've got technology, like we're doing a live stream. We've got Clubhouse. We have companies that are relying on Zoom communication. Attorneys are, I'll say this again, still in technology on how to serve clients, do so in a way that reduces friction, that reduces sort of they have concept. It's the social justice piece aside. That's what makes it the fact that you can use technology to finally connect with clients in real time on the go. It just blows my mind how few attorneys even have virtual consult button, right? Make things easier.
Yeah, and I will say, to give them a little credit, personal injury and criminal attorneys specifically are more apt to doing it. They're hungry to try something new to build a client base. Where so they're like, oh, I'll leave this on till 3 a.m. We had a call come in at 10:40, and the attorney that answered it is the attorney I went to law school with, and he texted me right away. He's like, I answered it right away because I knew it was real, and I was super excited. It was 10:40 at night. The PI attorneys and criminal attorneys are so excited to do it. I worked in corporate defense. If a client ever called me at 3 a.m, they best believe I was not answering, right? So, but PI and criminal attorneys are excited to do it because they know it's an opportunity to capture an audience.
100%. Awesome, guys. So the hour mark. Anything that you guys have coming up in the near future, media or character to tune into? I'd be very curious to tune into something you guys are a part of. I'm going to tease any of that. I don't know if you have
I get back. I returned from leave on Tuesday, so it'll all start back again then. So nothing immediately, but what I will say is, and he'll speak to it here, I'm sure. We're growing quickly. We're signing up attorneys in multiple states. So whether you're an attorney in Minnesota or outside of it, reach out to Damian, and he'd be happy to talk with you.
Absolutely, yeah. We're moving at breakneck speeds, and it's because we have such a powerful tool at our disposal that uniquely can really meet the needs that we are able to address with this kind of a tool. So it's phenomenal, and just excited to be able to have those business conversations with attorneys, corporations, et cetera, individuals even we were just at Pride over the weekend, and giving out free licenses to community members, and just the hunger at the end user level for a solution is palpable. It really is. You give somebody 30 seconds of a conversation and they're ready to go. They're ready to sign up. And so that just, for me, gets me excited, wakes me up every single morning, and means that I need to get the next 10 attorneys on the platform. Otherwise, I'm letting those individuals down who desperately want this tool in their pocket.
I will say that this is the last thing I'll say. We're on MSNBC and 5,000 people downloaded the app in the next 36 hours. But they were all over the country, and we're only in Minnesota. You sign up and you give the state that you're in. So we were like, okay, we gotta go. We gotta get to these jurisdictions because the people want it, and so we have to be able to facilitate it and get it out there. So we're excited to expand.
And to that point, sorry, Will, for jumping in here, but to that point, what we are doing for firms that are not in our current live jurisdictions is we are actually actively taking attorney partnership, founding partnership documents. So if this is something that you want to move quickly on, but we are not live in your state, we can actually set up kind of almost like a letter of intent. You say, I want to be a founding firm in my home state. And we can set that up, and you can be the first on the waiting list when your state goes live. So please don't feel that if we are not live in your state today, that we cannot be shortly. And even if we cannot be shortly, we can make sure that you're first in.
That's badass. I mean,
yeah,
that excites me because I don't into this. I just love what you're doing, and I love the cause behind it. So if there's anything else that I can help spread the word, I'm certainly happy to do so. So we're going to wrap this up. We've been live on Clubhouse. We've been live on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to get this syndicated across some other platforms in the near future to help spread the word about TurnSignl, the app that's just blowing up. It's trending. It's on a lot of stations, as we mentioned, to connect people in the community that are driving and stopped or in an accident with attorneys that serve them. And is to keep both sides of the community safe, both the people driving, law enforcement, and helping attorneys connect with them. Right? So I wish you guys both the best. I know we're going to stay in touch, I'm sure. And appreciate the time, you guys. And good luck in Q3, and let us know what else we can do.
sounds good. Thanks so much. It was nice to talk to everybody.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See ya.